Ever wonder why some words just totally evaporate the second they leave your mouth, but others, well, they literally haunt a woman at 2 a.m.? You can tell a woman she's absolutely gorgeous, and she might completely forget the guy who said it by tomorrow morning. Yet one specific, simple sentence from another man, that can stay locked in her mind for years. So why does standard praise about physical beauty just kind of fade away, while certain compliments crawl into her mind and set up camp? Well, let's dive into this explainer and find out exactly why. For the next few minutes, I want you to just think of me as your personal relationship coach. We're going to look at a definitive guide to shifting away from that generic everyday praise and moving toward profound, identity-focused compliments. And look, we aren't talking about being smooth or overly romantic here. We are talking about creating true psychological attraction. How? By touching a part of a woman's identity that she secretly questions when nobody else is watching. Here is the exact playbook we'll be using today to map out the psychology of desire. First, beyond surface level. Then, step 1, shift your focus. Step 2, praise emotional safety. Step 3, acknowledge hidden strength. And finally, step 4, master the delivery. Let's start with section 1, beyond surface level compliments, the failure of physical praise. Gentlemen, traditional dating advice always tells you to notice her body, right? Tell her she's hot, praise her beauty. But here's the reality check. She hears this so often that it literally just becomes filtered out background noise. Physical compliments are loud, sure, but they are incredibly temporary, and frankly, they're replaceable. Any guy out there can call a woman gorgeous. But an identity compliment? Wow, that makes her actually feel seen instead of just desired. It creates what we call emotional fingerprints because it touches her true nature rather than just giving her a temporary spike in validation. Think about the profound, lasting impact of recognizing the parts of her identity she actually questions. Moving right along to step 1, shift your focus from observation to emotional recognition. You really have to understand that true attraction isn't just about spiking her excitement. It's about recognizing her energy. A woman completely expects a man to notice her body, but it actually unsettles her in the best way possible when a man notices her emotional energy instead. So here is the mental shift you need to make right now. Stop relying on physical praise. Just take it out of your toolkit for a second. Start observing her emotional energy. Notice the hidden battles she's fighting, and then deliver an honest observation about those battles. You have to stop performing, stop trying to seduce her, and start genuinely observing what everyone else is completely overlooking. Because here is the psychological truth of the matter. Women remember feelings way more than they remember facts. When you recognize her emotional reality, you are leaving those emotional fingerprints we talked about. Your words bypass her logic entirely and attach directly to her identity. That is how deep emotional attachment begins, not through some cheap pickup line, but through profound recognition. That brings us to step 2, praise emotional safety, the first compliment she replays. You use this specific one when you notice the warmth and calm she provides to the people around her, without ever asking for attention or credit for it. And here is the exact phrase you use. You make people feel safe. That's it. Not you're beautiful. Not you're hot. Safe. Now, I need you to deliver this casually. It absolutely cannot sound like a performance or some manipulative seduction attempt. It has to be an honest observation. It works because it shows you are actually paying attention to a detail that almost everybody else missed. So, the psychology behind why this specific sentence carries so much weight comes down to her emotional armor. Deep inside, a lot of women walk through life wearing this invisible guard. They're smiling while overthinking. They're laughing while actively scanning the room for judgment. They speak carefully because they know exactly how quickly people can turn on vulnerability. When you tell her she makes people feel safe, you completely bypass that emotional armor. You're validating the silent effort she puts into making the world comfortable for others. All right, on to step 3, acknowledge hidden strength, the dangerous compliment. We call this dangerous because it touches a very deep, vulnerable part of her that she actively tries to hide from the entire world. The phrase is, you pretend to be strong even when you're overwhelmed. Look, forget those cheesy pickup lines asking if it hurt when she fell from heaven. This sentence right here, it's psychological dynamite. When you look at her and calmly recognize the immense pressure hiding right beneath her composure, you trigger an incredible emotional exposure. She stops feeling just admired and she starts feeling psychologically understood. It's confronting for sure, but in the most powerful way possible.
And the reason this works so well is because of emotional camouflage. Most women are absolute experts at saying, "I'm fine," while their eyes look completely exhausted. They're experts at carrying emotional chaos gracefully, comforting everyone else around them while secretly wishing someone would notice that they are drowning too. Almost nobody ever asks what a strong woman's strength is actually costing her. So when you finally notice the sadness or the sheer exhaustion hidden inside that smile, the relief she feels is profound. It's absolutely intoxicating.
But listen, none of this matters if you mess up step 4. Master the delivery, presence, timing, and precision. Emotional memory isn't built just because you rushed in to impress her with a clever line. It's built through grounded presence, impeccable timing, and emotional precision. You cannot force this, guys. You have to wait for the right moment when the mask slips just a little bit. So how do you know if you nail the delivery? Look for these signs of emotional exposure. If your words touched a hidden truth and successfully bypassed her logic, her reaction is going to be subtle. She might suddenly go quiet as her mind processes how accurately you just read her. She might laugh softly and quickly try to change the subject. She might play dumb and ask, "What do you mean?" even though she understood you perfectly. Or my personal favorite, she avoids eye contact for just a split second. That tiny physical reaction proves your words just hit home. A woman can argue with being called attractive. She cannot argue with being fundamentally understood. The crucial point here is understanding the difference in your approach moving forward. Most men rely on a transactional approach. This is where you're rushing to impress, trying to entertain, desperately trying to prove your value. The result, it just feels like an empty performance. She's seen it 1,000 times. But a transformational approach that utilizes genuine observation, emotional precision, and perfect timing, the result there is that you create emotional permanence. You stop being just another guy she met, and you become a thought she actively revisits in silence when her ceiling becomes a mirror at 2 a.m. Which really brings us to the core thesis of this entire explainer. Women are constantly perceived physically, but they are so rarely perceived emotionally. Attention is quite literally everywhere. It's cheap, it's abundant, and honestly, it's mostly meaningless. But understanding is incredibly rare. Almost every single human being walking this earth is starving to be seen beyond the mask they wear every day. When you become the person who finally sees behind that mask, you create a bond that logic simply cannot break. I want to leave you with a thought to chew on today. Look back at your own past interactions. The dates that didn't go anywhere, the relationships that fizzled out. Whose hidden truths have you been completely failing to notice because you were too busy looking at the surface? The next time you find yourself wanting to give a compliment, just pause. Look past the obvious. Notice the storm behind the calm. That is exactly how you become unforgettable. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you guys in the next one.